The silent departure. The manila envelope sat on the marble kitchen counter like an accusation. Inside, divorce papers, signed, notarized, final. Emma Chen stared at them for a long moment, then picked up her single suitcase and walked out of the penthouse that had been her prison for 3 years. She didn't leave a note. What was there to say that hadn't already been screamed, whispered, or left hanging in painful silence? The elevator descended 47 floors, and with each passing number, Emma felt herself becoming lighter. Not happy, not yet, but unburdened. At street level, she stepped into the autumn rain without an umbrella, letting it wash over her designer coat, the one Marcus had insisted she wear to look the part of a billionaire's wife. She didn't look back at the building, not once. 3 hours later, Emma sat in a corner booth at Rosie's Diner, the kind of place Marcus would have called beneath them. The coffee was weak, the vinyl seats were cracked, but the older waitress had smiled at her like she mattered, and that was worth more than all the 5-star restaurants in Manhattan. Her phone buzzed incessantly. 37 missed calls from Marcus. She turned it face down and ordered another coffee. Running from something or toward something? The waitress, her name tag read Betty, asked as she refilled Emma's cup. "I'm not sure yet," Emma admitted. "Is there a difference?" Betty laughed, a warm sound that crinkled the corners of her eyes. "Smart girl. Sometimes you don't know until you stop moving." Emma had met Marcus Chen 4 years ago at a charity gala. She'd been there as a social worker, representing the nonprofit, where she dedicated her 20s to helping immigrant families navigate the system. He'd been there as the guest of honor, the tech wunderkind who'd sold his startup for billions before he turned 30. He'd been charming that night, attentive. When he asked about her work, he'd actually listened, or so she'd thought. He'd talked about wanting to make a difference, about how wealth meant nothing without purpose. She'd believed him. God, how she'd believed him. The proposal came 6 months later, on a yacht in the Mediterranean. She'd said yes, ignoring the small voice that whispered, "But do you love him or the idea of what he could become?" The wedding was featured in 3 magazines. The marriage lasted less than 3 years. Emma's phone lit up again, but this time it wasn't Marcus. It was an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Mrs. Chen?" A professional female voice. "My name is Victoria Ross. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Chen. He'd like to speak with you. There's a car waiting outside the diner to take you to Teterboro Airport." Emma's hand tightened around the phone. "How did you know where I am?" "Mr. Chen wants to make things right. Please, just hear him out. Tell him I signed the papers." "There's nothing left to say. Mrs. Chen, Emma, please. It's important." "He's sending the jet." Emma laughed, a sharp sound. "Of course he is. That's very Marcus. Throw money at the problem." She hung up. Through the rain-streaked window she saw it, a black SUV idling at the curb. The driver stood outside with an umbrella waiting. Betty followed her gaze. "Friend of yours?" "Something like that." "You don't have to go anywhere you don't want to go, honey. You know that, right?" Emma nodded, but her mind was spinning. What could Marcus possibly want? She'd given him the clean break he'd been too cowardly to ask for. For months she'd watched him grow colder, more distant, buried in his work while their marriage withered. She'd tried to reach him, to remind him of the man she'd fallen for, but that man was gone. Or maybe he'd never really existed. Her phone rang again. This time, it was her former boss at the nonprofit, Lydia Martinez.
"Emma? Oh, thank God, I've been trying to reach you."
"Are you okay?" "Marcus called me, said it was urgent." "Lydia, I'm fine. We're divorced. It's over." "Honey, I know, he told me." "But that's not why he called." Lydia's voice cracked. "It's about the clinic." Emma's heart stuttered. The Immigrant Resource Clinic, her clinic, the one she'd built from nothing, the one she'd left behind when Marcus convinced her she could do more good by being his wife, hosting fundraisers, writing checks. "What about it?" "The building owner is evicting us. We're 3 months behind on rent and the new landlord wants to triple it. We found out yesterday." "Emma, we're going to have to shut down. 400 families depend on us." The words hit like a physical blow. Emma closed her eyes. "How much do you need?" $200,000 to catch up and secure a lease. "We've been fundraising, but Emma, I'm so sorry to dump this on you now. I just thought you should know." After they hung up, Emma sat very still. $200,000. It might as well have been $2 million. Her prenup had been ironclad. She'd signed it without reading, too in love to imagine needing it. She'd left the marriage with exactly what she'd brought into it: her battered Honda Civic, her graduate school debt, and her self-respect. The SUV was still waiting. 20 minutes later, Emma was in the back of the vehicle, heading to the airport. She hadn't decided what she'd say to Marcus, only that if there was any chance at all, he might help save the clinic. She had to try. The jet was smaller than she'd expected, sleek and private. The flight attendant greeted her by name and offered champagne, which Emma declined. She sat in the leather seat, watching the lights of New Jersey fall away below, and wondered what she was doing. The flight was short, just 40 minutes. When they landed, another car was waiting, and Emma realized they weren't in any city she recognized. The driver took her down a winding road lined with autumn trees, their leaves brilliant red and gold in the late afternoon sun. They stopped at a small house, no, a cottage, nestled beside a lake that reflected the sky like a mirror. Marcus stood on the porch. He looked different, thinner. His hair, usually perfectly styled, was slightly disheveled. He wore jeans and a sweater, clothes she'd never seen him in. For 3 years, she'd only seen him in suits, as if he'd been playing a part. "Thank you for coming," he said as she approached. "I almost didn't." Emma stopped at the bottom of the porch steps, maintaining distance.
Why am I here, Marcus?
"Because I owe you an explanation. And an apology. The papers are signed." "I know, this isn't about the divorce." He gestured to the cottage. "Will you come inside, please?" Against her better judgment, she followed him. The interior was simple, rustic, nothing like the chrome and glass of their penthouse. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. On a wooden table sat a laptop, several folders, and a framed photograph she recognized. The two of them at the charity gala where they'd met, before everything got complicated. "This place belonged to my grandmother," Marcus said quietly. "She left it to me when she died 2 years ago. I've been coming here on weekends when you thought I was traveling for work." Emma felt something cold settle in her stomach. "You lied to me." "Yes, and I'm sorry." He sat heavily in one of the chairs. "Emma, I've been seeing a therapist for 18 months. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed of needing help, of not being the man you thought I was." She remained standing, arms crossed. "What are you talking about?" Marcus looked at her, and for the first time in years, she saw real emotion in his eyes, not the controlled mask he'd worn like armor. "I had a breakdown right after we got married. The company I sold, they wanted me to stay on, to keep performing, to keep being the golden boy. And I tried. God, I tried. But the pressure, Emma, I was having panic attacks. I couldn't sleep. I was failing at work, failing at our marriage, failing at everything. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you looked at me like I was a hero," he whispered. "Like I could fix anything, save anyone, and I couldn't even save myself. I pushed you away because I didn't want you to see how broken I was." Emma's anger wavered, but she held firm. "You broke us, Marcus. You chose to handle it alone instead of letting me in. That's not on me. I know, and you were right to leave." He opened one of the folders. "But I need to show you something. In therapy, I started to remember who I was before the money, before the pressure. I remembered why I worked so hard in the first place." He pulled out documents, bank statements, wire transfers, incorporation papers. "What is this?" "For the last year, I've been setting up a foundation, anonymous donations to nonprofits, including yours. I've been covering your clinic's rent for 6 months, routing it through shell companies so you wouldn't know." Emma's legs went weak. She sat down. "What?" "The landlord who's threatening to evict you. I bought the building last month. Lydia doesn't know. I told her to call you because I needed you to come here, to listen to me. I know that was manipulative, and I'm sorry, but I was desperate." "I don't understand." Marcus leaned forward. "Emma, you were right about me, about us. I became everything I said I hated. Someone who valued money over people, who forgot why any of it mattered. You spent 3 years trying to remind me, and I was too proud, too scared, too broken to hear you." He pushed the papers toward her. "The building is yours, free and clear, no strings. The clinic is safe, and I've set up an endowment, $10 million, to fund it in perpetuity. You never have to worry about rent or resources again." Emma stared at the documents, her mind reeling. "Why?" Because you were the best thing that ever happened to me and I destroyed it. Because you dedicated your life to helping people, and I made you stop. Because if I can't be the man you deserved, I can at least make sure your work survives. Tears burned Emma's eyes. This doesn't fix us. I know, nothing can. And I'm not asking for that. His voice broke. I'm asking for forgiveness. Not for me, for you. So you can move forward without carrying my mistakes. Emma looked at him, really looked at him and saw the truth. He was sorry. He was broken. And he was finally, after everything, being honest. I loved you, she said softly. The you I met that first night. The one who talked about purpose and making a difference. He's still here. Buried under a lot of damage, but here. Therapy is helping. I'm learning to be whole again. Marcus's smile was sad. Just not with you. You deserve someone who's already whole. Someone who won't make you fix them. They sat in silence, the fire crackling. The past settling around them like snow. There's one more thing, Marcus said. He handed her a final document. I've signed over $20 million to a trust in your name. Use it however you want. Start new clinics. Go back to school, travel. Build a life that's yours. Marcus, you gave up your dreams for me. Let me give you the freedom to find them again. Emma held the paper with shaking hands. She thought of Betty at the diner, asking if she was running from something or toward something. Maybe the answer was both. Running from a marriage that had slowly suffocated her, toward a future she couldn't yet see but could finally choose. Thank you, she whispered. No, thank you. For trying, for believing in me even when I didn't deserve it. Marcus stood. The jet will take you anywhere you want to go, and Emma, I really do hope you find someone who sees you the way I should have. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of a new building in the Bronx. The sign read, Chen Martinez Immigrant Resource Center. Lydia stood beside her, crying happy tears, as families lined up for the grand opening. Emma had used Marcus's money to open 3 more clinics, fund legal services, and create a scholarship program for children of immigrants. She'd also gone back to school part-time, pursuing a doctorate in social work. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the news about the centers. I'm proud of you. She smiled and pocketed the phone without responding. Some doors once closed didn't need to reopen. But forgiveness, real forgiveness, meant you could remember the good parts without being trapped by the bad. Betty from the diner had been right. Sometimes you didn't know if you were running from something, or toward something until you stopped moving. Emma had stopped, and discovered she'd been running toward herself all along. As the first families entered the center, a little girl tugged on Emma's sleeve. Are you the lady who's going to help my mama? Emma knelt down to meet her eyes. Yes, and you know what? Your mama's going to help me right back. That's how this works. The girl smiled. And Emma felt something click into place, not happiness, not yet, but something better. Purpose, the kind you chose for yourself. She'd left without a word after the broken marriage. Hours later, the billionaire's jet had come for her. But in the end, she'd found her own way home. Sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of the one you were always meant to write.